Welcome back to Conversate with the Keem D. Earl. We are here with another very special episode with a very special guest. This young lady is from a native small town of Eastern North Carolina called Red Square, and she graduated Summa Cum Laude from Winston-Salem State University. After that, Quiana attended Howard University School of Law, where she represented clients through the Criminal Justice Clinic and was the executive notes and comments editor for the Howard Law Journal. Throughout law school, Quiana also interned and clerked at various public defenders' offices and public interest organizations, including Washington Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. She's been killing it. Quiana's commitment to academic excellence and serving minority and overlooked communities has also been recognized by the Washington Bar Association, as she was the first recipient of the Dr. J. Clay Smith Jr. Equal Justice College Scholar Award. Quiana was recently awarded the Law 360 Distinguished Legal Writing Award at the 2020 Burton Awards. After graduation from Howard Law, the first-generation Esquire joined the faculty of Georgetown Law School as an E. Barrett Prettyman Fellow, where she supervised third-year law students in Georgetown Juvenile Justice Clinic, while also representing children and adults in the D.C. Superior Court. After the Prettyman Fellowship, Quiana was awarded a LLM in advocacy. She has now joined the D.C. Public Defender Service as a general felony trial attorney. I know Quiana because that's the longest intro. It's the best intro.
Cut it down. I said cut it down.
Now I want to include all that because you've been killing it. I know Quiana, we did a law program years ago.
A long time
at
ago.
Widener. And when you go to these law programs in high school and through college, when you go to the different law programs, you could tell the students who are trying to figure out if they want to do the law and trying to see if they want to do this. And you can also tell the students who are like, yo, I know exactly what I want and I'm coming here to knock people's heads off. Quiana was the one who was coming to knock people's heads off. She knew exactly what she wanted. She was killing it in the law program. We did different mock trials, different mock classes, and we was going to war in the program. It was so much fun. It's so much fun. So it's so good to see your career now from that point and how we've grown and how we've entered into the legal profession and we really doing what we were setting out to do. So I'm so hyped to have you on. Please welcome Quiana Harris to the Conversate podcast. Hey, what's good? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to catch up with you.
For real.
Especially on this platform. But I'm definitely ready to dive into a few things. And I'm just so excited for you. And I've been seeing the podcast and the views. I said, look at that kid. So I was so excited when you reached out because I was like, oh my God. I really, really just appreciate the conversations that you have been kind of having on social media. I think all of them have been important. So I'm just happy to be a part of the cast.
Awesome. Yeah, now you get to add to that conversation, into that wealth and that value. So let's drop into it. All right. So the official Conversate first question is, if I was not a lawyer, I would be a what?
You know what? I used to always say that I wanted to be a mayor, or I wanted to be a very prominent politician. I was a political science major in college. So I was really, really into just community organizing, grassroots organizing.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what I gravitated towards. So I think that aside from possibly getting into very local politics, I could see myself getting into what I consider mentorship or nonprofit organizing centered around young people who are from areas and communities like my own. So poor areas without resources and opportunities for young people, especially young Black people, young people of color. I think that I really would want to give back to those communities in a way that has nothing to do with the law, but more so what opportunities are out there for people from these smaller and kind of overlooked communities. Yeah.
No, that's real. So what made you not be going to the politics? What drew you away from that?
I think for me, when I was in college, I had a professor who was a founding member of the Black Panther Party in North Carolina.
That's dope.
Dr. Larry Little. And Dr. Little represented several individuals who had either been wrongfully convicted or we'll say just unlawfully sentenced. And there was one client in particular that I actually got to meet once he was exonerated. And just knowing that it was a lawyer who essentially saved this man's life, I was
Wow.
like, no, I want to do that. And I thought,
Mm.
to me, I felt like seeing your contributions kind of like in real time was more
Yeah.
so kind of like gratifying for me, as
Mhm.
opposed to, as you know, when we're doing these, kind of like large or systemic issues that we try to tackle, it can take
Mhm.
some time. It can
Oh,
take
yeah.
some time to
Yeah.
actually see the
Mhm.
results of the work that you're putting in. And so I saw instant results or instant
Yeah.
gratification that's associated with getting somebody out of a cage. And I said, no, I want to do that instead.
Man. And you've done some of that work was at Georgetown or Harvard, or you helped with wrongfully convicted felons?
So when I was at Howard, I did have a internship at the Washington Lawyers Committee where
Right.
I specifically worked in the prisoners' rights
Mhm.
division, and that was a division where we focused on the Eighth Amendment violations for those who had been sentenced in the federal prisons. So DC doesn't have its own prison system, so they
Right.
send you out to what people call the feds or the federal
Mhm.
prison. So we pretty much focused on making sure or trying to help those people who were incarcerated, making sure that they were receiving showers, food,
Yeah.
calls to families. And although it wasn't necessarily focusing on wrongful convictions, it was focused on how they were being wrongfully treated in those
Yeah.
institutions. And that was probably one of the most meaningful opportunities that I've had since I've been a lawyer. And I was a law
Man.
student at the time.
Man, how was that? Like, what was like some of the craziest cases you've had in terms of the treatment of these people in
And I
jails?
honestly, everything was kind of horrid. There wasn't
Sheesh.
one situation where I felt like, oh, this isn't so bad, from people going weeks without access
Yeah.
to showers, people being, as you can imagine, victims of sexual assaults,
Yeah.
whether it
Yeah.
was by other people who are incarcerated, but also staff in these prisons who are
Mhm.
in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knows what they're doing inside these institutions, and you have somebody whose family is thousands of miles away. Their family can't afford to go and see them. And when we talk
Mm.
about the cost of collect calls when you're in a federal prison or even the local jails,
Yeah.
some families, they can't afford to put money on the phone every day or every week to
Yeah.
even talk to family members. And so just kind of realizing like these people are really on their own, that was
Mhm.
a really, really kind of meaningful position for me, because I felt like we were a voice for literally a whole community of people
Yeah.
who the system essentially has thrown them away. And
Forgotten,
that was
man.
really, that was
Yeah.
really meaningful for me.
It's
Right.
crazy. When the January 6th thing happened and
Oh, yeah.
those people were locked up, I don't know if you saw, but like they were complaining about
Yes. The
jail conditions.
food and the conditions. I'm like, okay.
And they actually moved some of them. And I'm like, the jail's
Right.
been terrible. Y'all don't move them
Wow.
out.
I was like, are you
It's crazy.
serious? I was like,
Yeah.
are you serious? The food, there was one guy who I think he was vegan or something
Right.
like that. They were saying that they
Like,
didn't have, like, his diet couldn't
right.
I was like, are
Man, you
you
just stormed the
dead
Capitol,
serious?
brother. You better
Are you
ignore
dead
them conditions.
serious? Yeah, so
Man.
that was disturbing, but I think that pissed a lot of us who,
Mhm.
especially here in DC, who practice every
Right.
day and who have clients every day that are in the very jails that these
Right.
people were complaining about. That pissed a lot of us off, and we're like, are you dead serious that they
Sheesh.
actually were trying to essentially pacify these very,
Yeah.
privileged white people who
Mhm.
are so privileged that they decided to storm the Capitol.
Mhm. While you've been
Right.
fighting for these people who've been in jail
Yes.
for many years and
Yes.
no budging on what they
On
are treated
anything,
like.
right. Mm-hmm.
Man. So you said something interesting about like you felt like you were making change that was gratifying to you. Because I know a lot of
Yeah.
people feel like if they're not making big systemic changes, nothing's really
Right.
moving the needle. Do you feel like in your experience so far that you've moved the needle in your own world? Like how meaningful is it to take it a client at a time and I feel like if I'm not changing the world in 2 weeks, I'm not doing much? Like,
Well, yeah, so I've never been I want to change the world type of girl. For me,
I'll take it the small load.
for me, having one person say, you know what, you are the only
Mm.
person who ever fought for me. Like, oh wow, you're the only person who I feel like actually cares about me. Like
Man.
when we're in court, I actually feel like I have a fighting chance. And in every other aspect of that person's life, they may have felt like all odds were against them, or just that they were losing the fight at life. And so for me, getting one person out of jail,
Yeah.
me helping one person, essentially, I'll say, assert the rights that we all are afforded under the Constitution. That's more than enough for me, because each person who I represent, when I tell you, it's almost like looking at like a family member or like a cousin or like, even a significant other. All of it hits so close to home for me that I think for me, it's more meaningful than if I was to be essentially changing the world through these big systemic policies and class action suits. I see the difference every day that I'm making in the lives of my clients. And to me, I think that's, for me personally, that's more rewarding. Because I literally can see someone in a jail cell one day, and because of my advocacy, they're back at home with their kids the next day. And I don't think it gets better than that.
Man, that's real. That could be a crazy feeling. That's real. So you're now a defense attorney. Being in the position that you are now, did you like overestimate or underestimate the system? Like, how is it now that you're actually in it? We always talk about the system is broken or whatever. You're actively here now doing it. How bad is it? Let's talk about it. For the people who are on the outside, you're really in the middle of it. Like, what is the experience like really doing it day by day?
Of course, I can only speak to what my experience has been in the district. And then of course, like, personal experiences when I was back in North Carolina. What I will say about practicing here in DC is that, especially in the office that I'm in now, is that I'm surrounded by what I say are like advocates. There's no such thing as not doing what you're supposed to do to fight for this person. And a lot of the fights we win. I recently had a client who was acquitted of homicide after being in jail for over 2 years. And I think that's a situation where, that could have very well been the opposite result, in another state, in another county, in another place. But I think that having I'll call it a privilege to practice in the nation's capital. We're supposed to be very progressive here. We take on a lot of, I'll say, what are the most controversial legal topics. What we see kind of like clickbait in the media. Prison reform, probation, and post-conviction reform, re-entry. We're dealing with that stuff every day. And it's not a kind of fly by the wayside approach. It's we need to get it done. And I think that, but for us fighting the way we do, I would feel like there's no hope. Like, there's no end to this. But we are so, and I think I've been trained that because of the opportunities. I know you spoke a little bit about the things I did in law school leading up to practicing now, that I've been trained to step up and just do the work. And I don't think that's the case in a lot of other places. Now, I will say, racism, I don't think is going nowhere. You still see it, whether it's overt, invert, under the covers, under the table. It's still overt. It's whatever you want to call it. It's still here, and it's living and breathing in every single thing we do. And we have, unconscious bias, conscious biases that we deal with every day, from police officers to judges to supervision and probation officers. And I think that, although we are fighting against that every day, and us as Black people, we deal with that at work and outside of work. But what I will say is that when I'm at work, it's not gonna fly. Like, no, I'm speaking up when it's not right. I'm filing a motion. I'm making an argument. I'm having the conversations. I'm putting people in their place as much as I can, because I think that that's what's gonna bring about a change. If you're just kind of going with the system, you're just kind of like, all right, well, that doesn't feel right, but I guess I won't say anything, but that's the way they've been doing it for years. So what can I do? No.
Talk about it.
That might be what you do before, but that's not how it's going down. I'm going to say something about it, and I'm going to try my best to make a difference and make a change. And, we're not always successful. Sometimes we get beat down. Sometimes we get told that's not right. You cannot do that. But I don't think that changes the fact that we're fighting and that we're trying. And I think that that's something that I've seen is very specific to DC.
Man, that's dope. It feels good to have the tools to actually fight, like you said. Like, you feel, knowing that you're in a position now to actually file that motion, to speak up at this point, like, that would actually make a change. You're not just like from the outside looking in, like, oh, I wish something could change. No, you have the options to make that budge.
Yes,
man. So you spoke about being in North Carolina and DC. How was that transition from North Carolina to DC? What was
Oh
that like?
Lord, when I tell you, so when I first came to DC, when I first moved here,
Mhm.
I would say it definitely was a culture shock.
Ooh.
We talk about Southern hospitality all the
Mhm.
time, even in the workplace.
Mm.
I think that that's kind of like a given.
Mhm.
You know, in probably like the more southern rural areas, you
Yeah.
know, even if it's putting on the front, everybody is nice nasty. I'll call it nice
Nice
nasty.
nasty? That's
Here,
new.
oh no, you know,
Is
here
this
that
nasty?
yeah, they'll give it to you straight up.
Right.
They'll
Ain't no
give it to you
nice in
straight
front
up.
of it. Oh
Yeah, and
man.
so I think that that was something I had to adjust to, and not taking
Mm.
everything so personal, because we all have different, you know, backgrounds and upbringings and experiences that cause us
Yeah.
to feel a certain way about certain people, you know, certain places, especially when we talk about people who are traumatized by the court systems. Some people
Mhm.
just hate lawyers all around. You know, they
Facts.
look at you as a part of the system. I
Mhm.
don't like it. I don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah. I
And
don't care
then
what you do. I don't
yeah,
care who you
it doesn't
helping.
matter what you do.
You a
Yeah,
lawyer?
they're
I
like,
don't like it.
they're like, oh no, you know, you with the course, you with the
Yeah.
course. And I
Yeah.
think that it took me a little bit of adjusting to kind of realizing, you know, compared to North Carolina here in DC, how there
Mhm.
is so much weight given to what someone does in their
Mm.
profession, like their professional life. Like that was one of the first things a lot of people would ask me, like,
What do you do?
what do you do?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I wasn't used to that because I'm kind of like, why does it matter? You know, I can
Mm.
understand if you're like at an interview or at like a
Right.
professional
Mhm.
networking event or something of that nature, but literally like in regular conversation, meeting a stranger at a bar, at a coffee place, or wherever you are, probably the first or second question after your name is, so what do you do? Who do you work for? And I
Man.
thought that that was really weird when I
Yes.
first moved here, but it seems like that's just a fabric of the
How it is.
city. Like they want to
Yeah.
know what you do. I don't know if it's to kind of rank how they're gonna treat you and where they're gonna
Yeah.
respect you. I
It's
don't
to
know what it
decide how
is.
much effort they want to put into this connection
And
right now.
okay,
What can I get
and
out of
right, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to get to where I'm like, I don't feel comfortable disclosing, you know,
Right.
and let's see where we go from there.
Right.
Right. So that was a big change from North Carolina.
Man, did that change how you approached taking on opportunities? Like you understood what the city was like. You know, everybody's about climbing that ladder and progression.
Mm-hmm.
Did that change any of your goals or how you moved, or were you just like, nah, this is not about to switch up?
No. I think what I will say, and I'll just be completely candid.
Yeah.
When I was in law school, I came to law school with the expectation of becoming a public defender, and I
Mm.
think that initially, I don't feel that my career decision was necessarily supported, and more so that
Mm.
you have good grades, you're
Mm.
here, you can make a ton of money. There's
Man.
several like top law firms here in DC. You can grab you one of those jobs and make six figures right
Right.
out the bat.
Especially it being a Howard law, like that's a
Yes, yeah.
clear path to big law. Yeah.
Right, make six figures right out the back. And now,
Mm-hmm.
when you talking to somebody I'm like, well, so how many zeros? I don't know nothing about that. I don't know nothing about that.
Yo, no, talk about it, because I feel like people think that all lawyers make mad money, and I have to explain to my family, to some of my friends. I'm like, every lawyer not
That
rich,
ain't how it
y'all.
go. That ain't how it go. That ain't how it go. And so I was like, like that sounds almost too good to be true. And it was because of just the ignorance and me being, you mentioned when you introduced me, the first lawyer in my family.
Yeah.
Me not really
Fire.
knowing many lawyers, not even really
Yeah.
knowing what it means to be a lawyer. Because what I wanted to do was because I was passionate about it, and I wanted to help my community,
Yeah.
and through being a public defender, which is a
Yeah.
lawyer who represents people who cannot afford private counsel. So
Mm.
the community and the demographic of people that I serve are just like me. Like I see them as they're just like me. They come from places just like me. So the idea of doing something else was almost so foreign to me that I couldn't even comprehend what they were saying.
What
They're
that
like, you
wow.
can get this amount of, money, or you can do this. Like I
Mm.
really kind of like, it's like you don't know what you don't know. I'm just kind of like,
Yeah. No, for real.
I hear what you're saying, but that don't even have
Mm.
fun. I'm gonna stay on this side,
Right.
and that's what I
Man.
did, and that's what I did. And I think at the end of the day, I'm glad that I wasn't swayed by what everybody else was doing. I'm glad that I didn't let, and I'm talking about conversations from well-respected mentors and things of that nature, saying like, you should really look into this because not only is it more lucrative, but the opportunities that come from doing X, Y, and Z as compared to the career that you think you want to go into, try these other things. And so I'm glad that I kind of steadfast in what I wanted to do, and I wasn't swayed because I'm happy in my career. I can say I don't feel like I regret anything. I don't feel like I, gave up on these grandiose opportunities. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So I don't think anything could have swayed me, and nothing did sway me, even though I, was privy to a lot of different conversations and information that I didn't know before I went to law school.
Man, do you think if you knew, would anything change if you knew more trainings growing up, or if you were exposed to more law growing up, or more different areas of law?
Right. So possibly, maybe, I think maybe that could have maybe given me some insight into just like what, like you said, like the other types of law that are out there and the other ways in which, we can help or at least make an impact in the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
Maybe so, but I think that the police and just kind of like criminal law was so entrenched in my everyday life. It was like I don't even think anything else could have drawn me away from what I was seeing almost every day. Police officers, people being arrested, people being in jail. Like it was something I always saw every day. It was so entrenched in my everyday life that I don't even know if I would have maybe known other lawyers, if that would have kind of taken me away from what I was so kind of entrenched in.
Like it was such a glaring problem that you couldn't ignore. You couldn't just turn around and do something else. Like, this is the problem
like,
you needed
to. I'll be a nurse. No, you
this
did.
Is what I need to do.
Yeah, I felt like this is what I needed to do. It was very, a very prominent part of my like just childhood.
Man, that's fire. That's dope. I love it. So we'll take a little quick turn. Tell me something outside of the law that keeps you going. What is a side hobby, side interest? Side job, side hustle.
So, I don't know about a side job. Now,
I'm plenty busy at my
I don't know about a side job. Now, and if I had one, I might not disclose that one. But I would disclose a side job. But look, but I do. I really enjoy just like, and I hate to say this, and I think it goes back to the other point that we talked about a little earlier, but being like a regular person outside of work. Like, I don't like to wear my profession like on my sleeve every day. Like, I go out, I have a good time, I spend time with my friends, I, go to concerts, I listen to my favorite music, like I try different restaurants. Like I enjoy when I walk out of work just taking out the lawyer hat, because I see, especially just kind of like in this area, how people's profession or what they do professionally is almost kind of like is who they are.
Yeah.
And where it makes it so much more refreshing when I can say, you do you, but this is me. This is what I do outside of work. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to happy hour.
I don't want to hear about what you do. I'm
going to happy hour. I'm going to get my nails done. I'm gossiping on FaceTime with my friends, and I think just being a regular person. I will say that I recently had an opportunity to kind of participate in some organizing with the Department of Employment Services here in DC, where they had several job readiness trainings for just young people here in DC. I got to kind of teach a few classes on just job readiness and confidence in the confidence in the workplace, and just different having conversations with young people who may not have ever seen someone from a community like theirs do what I'm doing. Like, they maybe they have never actually had a conversation with a Black lawyer or a young Black lawyer or a Black lawyer who understands, like, I love NBA Youngboy, I love Lil Boosie, I love Kodak Black. Somebody who can connect with them, and that meant a lot to me. And I think I definitely want to kind of spend more time getting in those spaces, because just one or two conversations I think could change the trajectory of somebody's life, because they can see, like, dang, I never thought about it like that. Like, okay, and it's coming from somebody who at least on, at least a very kind of, I'll say, basic level that they can relate to, and not somebody who is like, I could never do that. Like, I'm nothing like that person. So I know that doesn't apply to me. So I'm just looking for different ways and more opportunities so that I can engage in kind of that type of outside work, just opportunities. Because I felt like not only was it fulfilling to me, it didn't feel like I was working, and I felt like it made a difference for the few young people that I had an opportunity to work with.
Man, and like you said, like, we didn't see a lot of lawyers growing up.
Yeah.
So for kids to see young Black lawyers, women lawyers, male lawyers, like, in the space, they can say, oh, shoot, this is actually a thing I can do. And that's why I love doing this podcast, because it gets to show people, attorneys, like Black attorneys, like, nah, they're real people, real cool.
Right.
Like, you don't gotta be scared to enter this profession, because we just thought it was like a bunch of white men in this profession.
And unfortunately, historically, it has been.
Yes.
Black lawyers are still the very, very few percentage of lawyers in the United States. And so when I do see, when I see young people interested in, like, oh, well, I was thinking about law school, I was thinking about this, and I hate when I see other people discouraging people from wanting to enter the law field, or to do things like, oh, it's hard, it's expensive, and et cetera, et cetera. I feel like if I can do it, anybody can do it, you know, and I don't think we want to discourage people. I think we want to encourage them, like, yeah, try it out. And if for some reason you say, you know what, maybe this isn't for me, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but at least you try. And so I will always encourage. I think that, of course, HBCU needs to be your foundation.
Come on.
And if you're going to go to law school, go to a HBCU for law school. And wherever you want to practice, whatever type of law you want to do, you know, I say just give it a shot. Give it a try. The worst thing that could happen is it doesn't work out, and it wouldn't be the end of the world. So I'm definitely big on just try it out. Just give it a shot.
People have definitely told me, like, don't do it. People definitely do it. Don't be a lawyer.
I heard people say that too to other, like, kind of like college students and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why do you say that?
Right. I always thought that it was like to show you, like, the heaviness of it, to really expose to you, like, yo, this is a real thing. So it's like to prove to yourself, like, I'm telling you, don't do it. But if you really want to do it, you're going to push past that, and you're going to do it anyway. So I'm thinking hopefully that it's a way of, like, weeding out the people who really want to be in this profession.
Right.
I know for you, like, I don't know if my starting law school class, a lot of people, they finish. A lot of people ain't make it to class 2. They were like, yeah, nah, this ain't for me. Like, we saw in a big class, we graduated with like 70% of it, but like, you do get to a point where you're like, did you have that experience in law school where you were like, yo, listen, I don't know if I could do this?
When I tell you, what did I say before? You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
When I tell you, I would see people like first semester went in like office hours. I'm like, yo, why would I go and talk? I'm like, how does that make sense? What? I'm like, huh? And outlines and all this stuff. It was like a world unknown. Like, I was so blind to everything. But what I'm just so grateful for is that I had the discernment. After we got those first midterm grades, I was like, Cause I come from, you mentioned Summa Cum Laude.
Yes, come on.
So I come from, that's no problem. I got this. I got this. Whether I study hard, study wrong, study whatever, I got it. I'm gonna get it together when it comes. I'm gonna figure it out. Law school was a different beast. No. You gotta sit down. You gotta start from towards you gotta start. You gotta do it
from zero. Not for real.
You gotta start
law
from
school
zero.
Is a great equalizer. Like, it don't matter how great
It'll humble you,
man, because you're learning everything new. We were taught to write a certain way from junior high to college, and then law school goes, forget all of it.
Just start over.
Get all of it.
Just start over.
This is a whole new way to write. This is a whole new way to read.
Just start over. So I definitely started law school kind of blind.
Yeah.
And I feel like I caught up right on time, because it's almost like you get those first year grades and it could be so hard to bounce back. But after like the first semester midterms, I realized, I'm like, whoa, I'm better than this. I don't make C's and 78s. Right. That ain't me. That ain't what I do. So I caught on. I'm like, okay, study groups, okay, office hours, okay. I need to be, reviewing outlines. I need to go back and make sure I'm actually briefing these supplements, buying supplements, make sure I'm actually briefing these cases and not just browsing through them. So I picked up very quickly. Very quickly.
That's a quick tip right there. Y'all law students, do not breeze through them cases.
You better
read it.
You better find out what that holding was. What was that rationale?
Read through them cases. Don't cheat it.
You better pull out the rule. Put it in your own words.
Facts. Read that rule.
Yeah.
Man, what was your favorite part of law school? What was your favorite part? What was your worst part?
My worst part, I think, was, to me, it goes back to kind of like the culture shock with just being in this area in general.
Yeah.
There were not a lot of students who were first generation law students. There were not a lot of students who came from, kind of low income or just like poor areas.
Really?
And so I think that it was a little bit hard for me to like connect with other students. And I think sometimes we think like, well, you're all Black. Yeah. But that doesn't, that doesn't determine or that doesn't explain your experience. And I think that I had a unique experience compared to majority of my classmates or just majority of the school in general. And I think that in a way kind of, pushed me into like this, I'm just going to do me. I'm going to do my work, do my studying or whatever. I don't even think I actually I never had a formal study group. Like I'm the type of person who would randomly drop in on somebody's study group for a certain topic. I ain't get it today. What a study group's at?
Y'all talk about language right now? Yeah. Okay, we doing this here. I'm gonna jump in here.
What a study group said. Yeah. I didn't get that. I didn't get that. What a study groups? Jurisdiction, Civ Pro. What a study group?
But like a consistent study group, like, I need to study now. I feel you. Yeah,
I didn't have it, and I think that was probably the worst part because I really felt like I'm gonna be surrounded by Black people. I'm gonna have this whole group of friends.
I'm thinking Howard. Everybody has the same experience, but I'm thinking Howard, you would have a more diverse within the diverse. You know what I'm saying? Like, you think there'll be more people who come from where you come from.
Well, I mean, Howard ain't just getting pick of the litter now. It ain't easy to get in there. So,
that's true. That's true.
It's the cream of the crop is what they call it. And so that was probably one of my least favorite parts of law school. And I'll just say the best parts were literally just kind of like, one thing I will say about Howard is not only the historical significance of the school, but just the experiences of our professors. Like we had a professor who she represented, people who were fighting in the civil rights movement. Like she had, pictures with MLK and stuff like that. And so just being that close to history was probably the best part. I had another professor who actually was like special counsel to Barack Obama during his administration. So I just felt like just being that close to just those type of prominent figures in the legal profession was probably the best part of it, and just learning and listening to them. And then of course just being here in DC, like outside of coursework or like school, just being able to go around the city, see different things, meet different people. So that's probably the best part of law school.
Nice. So now you're on the other side. Well, you have to take the bar to get to the other side. Give me a bar horror story, a bar exam horror story.
Bar horror story.
Whether through studying or taking the actual test.
So taking the actual test, I actually feel like because I don't know, only like a few weirdos who are like, I feel so good after they take the bar. Like, I crushed the bar. So that didn't happen. But while I was taking the bar, what I will say is there was a moment while I was taking the bar where I read through our little prompts, right? Like, I did this thing where I think I just read through to see what's going to be in there. I don't want to be surprised. And it was like, before I started, right, there was a moment where I could feel my mind like going blank.
Ooh,
and I think it was just nerves because I could feel my mind going blank. So I just had to calm myself down. And I'm like, you know what?
Do a little prayer.
I'm like, you know what? Let me get it together.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it just started coming back to me. And of course, I'm pressed for time, or whatever. I don't even think I took a bath. I may have took a bathroom break, but I'll be honest with you.
Bathroom breaks?
I think I did, but when I tell you I was so fast, I probably didn't even wash my hands because I was trying to get back to that test.
Oh, Lord, and COVID?
That was before. That was before.
Oh,
that was
right
before
before.
COVID.
Oh, okay,
right
okay.
before.
But still, you
Right
should have washed
before
your hands,
COVID,
man. Come
which
on.
was a very, very unique experience.
Yeah.
That was a very unique
2019,
experience
right?
coming from this ready to jump into the legal field, but COVID. And then I will just share during the time when I was studying for the bar. At the time, my boyfriend was murdered back in North Carolina, and so to me, to keep my mind kind of focused, like off of like just that very, very traumatic experience, I just dived into the books. Yep. And
did you not want to take a break? That were you thinking of like
no, because I just was like, I didn't want to get wrapped up in grief. So he died in June. I took the bar in July, and that was very, very, very traumatic. But I think that having something so heavy to keep my mind off of it, I just went hard in the books. Hard in the books. And then, like I said, right after that was July. So, July, August, September, October, living your best life.
Yeah.
Waiting on your results. And then they start talking about COVID. You remember at first it was kind of like
not just only white people get it. It was overseas.
It's crazy. Then it was like only nurse and hospital staff need to wear a mask. And then it was like wear a mask, don't wear this mask. And then eventually, like I feel like at the beginning of 2020, that's when everybody's like, nah, this is serious.
Real.
Stuff started getting shut down. And I was so upset. I'm like, I just graduated and started, and now this
ready
is a
to
pandemic.
take on the world.
Yeah, that was hard too.
Went straight into virtual meetings off the bat, and that I'm so sorry to hear about your boyfriend. I feel like people going into law school, a lot of advice that I got was like, only focus on your books, nothing else matters, and people forget that real life still goes on. Real life happens. Like, there's no way you can only focus on law school.
Yes.
Like, you still got parents, you still got siblings, you still got kids, some people, you still got previous jobs, working side jobs. Like, life goes on. Obviously, you're going to have to prioritize law school, but you're still going to have to handle real life, and you're going to have to organize your life properly, because that tragedy is great. Like, you weren't expecting that. You still had to figure it out.
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
And I will say my one word of advice, and this is me specifically, I'm talking about me.
Yeah.
I knew at the outset, I can't answer every class. Some of y'all gonna have to go to the wayside. I don't know who it's gonna be, but some of y'all not getting as much time as the other ones. I'm sorry.
Man.
Because I'm not gonna kill myself.
Right.
I'm not gonna be able to do it. Somebody gonna get it. I'm gonna have to get a C somewhere.
Right. Everybody can't get 100%. You gotta have to.
You can't. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were students who did. I had classmates who you would hear them all the time. This is number 1 in the class, number 2 in the class, 2 and 1 with flip flop, 1, 2, and 3 with flip flop. And I did okay. But I think that I have very realistic expectations for myself, because I know who I am and I know what works best for me.
Right.
And my goal wasn't to be at the top of the class. My goal was to do well and understand the material and pass the bar, which is what I did. But I had to have a very real conversation with myself. I'm like, okay, you just spent 12 hours on torts. You're going to do it again and again. No. Somebody only getting 30 minutes.
Right. I mean, and you're gonna have to learn it for the bar, because there's no way you can spend 12 hours on torts. You need to split that 12 hours in 12 different subjects and get them all in, because then you're literally squeezing all that in. Man.
Yeah. So I had to be very realistic with myself. Yeah.
Man, that's real. Describe that dynamic though of like the class ranking and fighting for the top. Like, is that something like you have no choice but to be pulled into, or you're able to be like you said, like, I'm not about to.
I mean, I think because I went to a law school where, there was a curve, but there was no, pass or fail necessarily. You're getting a grade, and you're going to know your rank from 1 to 150. And I think for me, I always knew, because like I said, I come from just having a background of really good grades and, being at the top of the class and always, understanding my work. And so I think that in a way, it was always in the back of my mind. Like, I'm like, dang, I know that I have the potential to do this because I've done it before.
Yeah.
But I think that I did have like a very like realistic expectation for myself, which is, you're probably not going to be number one in the class. And after a certain point, you're like, oh, you will not be number one in the class.
What
And
makes it a
so,
realistic expectation, though? Why
and
is that?
I think it gets realistic because we're talking about cumulative GPA. We're talking about, maybe one semester you just weren't, you like you said, personal things could have been going on.
One
Anything could have
exam,
happened.
finals,
Something
for the whole grade.
something. And so, now you're fighting against, whatever that was. And I think that having just knowing that, what, that doesn't make you a better or worse lawyer. That doesn't mean you will or will not pass the bar. So just relax, take it easy, and do what you can. You do need to put in the time, of course. Like, you can't just, go out every day, sleep all day, and not study, not go to class. But I don't think that we should kind of put this I'll say kind of expectation, especially on young Black people, that you need to be at the top. You have to do better than everybody else. No, what you need to do is do your best.
Yeah.
You need to do your best in what you can do.
Yeah. Focus on you.
And, focus on you and push yourself and make sure you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people and people who are, positive and trying to do their best as well. And I think you'll end up coming out okay.
Man, that's real. So speaking of getting good grades in law school, not making you a great lawyer, how many bad lawyers have you came across?
Too many. Too many. Somebody needs to do an audit. Somebody needs to do an audit.
Line up all the lawyers. Let's do this again. Let's bring them out.
Okay. and I feel like what I have seen, and I actually saw this in law school, but I saw it in college too, that it doesn't matter if you are a top law school graduate. It doesn't matter if you're from a little school somewhere that maybe many people haven't heard of, that and that doesn't dictate your ability to do the best job possible. We talk about the T10, you got your Harvards, your Yales, your Stanfords, you got all of those schools, and it's fine, it's great, it's dandy. If you can get into an Ivy League, I don't recommend it, but if you go out, understand. I don't. But if you go out, understand.
Get to that after. Yeah.
Yeah, if you go out, understand. But what I have seen in my own practices, that doesn't mean a thing.
Right.
It's literally I don't think it has any say so on how effective or how competent a lawyer is when we are talking about, their background, their family, where they went to school. I don't think it matters, because I've seen some of the worst T10 law school graduates. And it's like, damn, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing down there in wherever that school is at?
Or up there in Boston.
Up there, right? What are y'all doing there? Dang.
So why don't you recommend it though?
So I wouldn't say I don't recommend it, but I would say that my experience at historically Black university is an experience that not only, I think, kind of molded me into who I am, but it gave me a sense of confidence that I don't think you necessarily will get by being the only Black person in the room.
Right.
I don't think it's there. I think that being that token one or whatever it may be, I think that even if you come from wherever you come from, and you have this very strong sense of self, and you can stand up to the fight. I don't always want to fight. I don't always want to be the one y'all look at. Well, what do Black people think about this? Don't look at me.
Being a Black hero is a lot.
I don't want to do that.
It's hard.
I like to be around very I like and especially when we're talking about stressful situations like law school and college and just like academia in general, having a professor who understands and who has a similar background to you, being with classmates who understand, have similar backgrounds, similar experiences, it just made, especially in college, it just made my experience almost like, I'll say, perfect. Right. It just felt like a family. And I think that so much can come out of that when you have like support and just a community that's genuine. And it's not just like, we got to tolerate you because you're here. It's like, no, we're all happy to be here. And, we're together in a sense. And I don't think that that's an experience that I've heard from many Black people who've gone to predominantly white institutions.
That's not the fight you want to fight.
It ain't my fight. It ain't my fight. Nope.
So how do you feel about, I mean, a lot of these T10 schools have been like unranking themselves or like taking themselves off these ranking lists. How do you feel about that? No,
I
Yale
think
and has done it.
this should have been did. We should have
Right.
never been ranking schools. We should have never fallen into this system of where almost like you are more worthy than everybody else because you can get into this certain place or because you can score a certain score on the LSAT. I remember at Widener when we took that like a LSAT prep thing. I was like,
you was stressed. You was
but I'm
stressed
like,
about it.
how am I supposed to know how to do this without a professional teaching me? And we were lucky to have that program, but what about the people who can't afford to have those private tutors to teach you how to take the LSAT or to teach you how to take the SATs? Does that make someone who can't afford that better than them or more worthy to be at certain places or to have certain opportunities? No, of course not.
Yeah.
And I've also seen where some schools are talking about taking away the LSAT requirement. They should have did that too.
Yeah.
Because those are just barriers, I think, to specific groups and demographics of people who don't have access to the opportunities that allow you to do well on those tests or whatever it might be to the qualifications to get into the school.
No, you're absolutely right. Because I feel like we didn't know that the LSAT was such like a, like you needed resources to learn that.
Yes. I don't think that's something you can teach yourself. Some people do.
No. And that's why that the LSAT and the bar was like, it's not something like you can just like read a couple books. Like, no, you need to have the resources to pay for a good teacher.
Yeah.
And even the people who came in I remember we were all like stressed because the score we got was so low and we thought like this is the real thing. We were so invested. But I think it was a shock of like, yo, this thing is hard. Yeah. I've never seen anything like this. And like you said, like if not for that program, we wouldn't have known. So imagine from people in high school and college who don't have resources or don't have those programs, they're walking into this test where so-and-so from a different neighborhood and a different complexion
been taking practice courses and private tutors
from the jump. So they're already prepared. So get rid of these tests. I'm ready.
I agree.
Man, so I also saw while I was stalking your LinkedIn for this interview, I also saw that you spoke at your old high school. How was that? I thought that was really cool.
When I tell you, at first, and this is so crazy. At first, I was like, because they reached out or whatever, and they were like, "Hey, we have this. Come back to the 252. That's the area code I'm from.
Yeah.
Come back to the
Shout
252.
Shout out
252. Come back to the 252, and kind of talk to the students, let them know, kind of what you've been doing. And at first, I don't know why, but I had this feeling of like inadequacy. Like I was like, what in the world can I tell them? Type of thing. I'm like, what do they want to? What would they want to? And then I really sat and I just kind of took myself out of it for a second, and I'm like, no, I need to go talk to them. I need to go down there in full force and like listen to me, y'all.
Yeah.
You can, if you want to, leave this area and you can do whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter if your mom is here, if your dad is there, if you die, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can do this. It doesn't matter where you're from. And because I come from a very, very small area, and I think that a lot of people, maybe they don't ever leave.
Yeah.
Like generations, like parents, grandparents, everybody's still there. And it's nothing wrong with that at all. But I think that when we're talking about young people who are just so, they're energetic, they're eager, they, are filled with life and just, have these deep talent and these big aspirations and dreams, and you're around or you're in an area, because we can't help where we're born, but you're in an area where they don't have the art programs, they don't have the music programs, they don't have the pre-law programs, they don't have this, they don't have that, and then you end up maybe settling for what you can do because you don't know any better or you don't know what else is out there. So
there's really nothing else on the table. You don't see anything else.
Yeah. And I think that for me, like that experience to go back and talk to the school was almost like perfect timing. Like I'm like, it was perfect timing because it also, not only did it kind of like motivate me, kind of like energize me a little bit. I'm like, you know what? I am doing a great job, and I do need to take advantage of more opportunities to give back and to talk to younger people, and just kind of give my experience, because I do think it's a unique experience. I do think that a lot of us, especially, when we leave our hometowns or where we're from, it's almost like we kind of beat the odds a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like you beat the odds, and I don't want to be, just like a fairy tale story. Like you
Mm.
remember that one girl, Quiana, that time, and
He did
no,
good.
I would
heard
let
back,
people
but-
say, well, what about Quiana and Ashley and Joe and Bill, and they all went and did great things, and wow, and I don't want to just be, big fish in a small pond. I would like to be all of us to do any and everything that we really want to do, especially like it's literally like a soft spot for me, for people who are from where I'm from, because I think that it's hard to leave. It's hard to envision yourself somewhere else that you've never been or that you've never seen. Like it's hard to say, I'm going to be a Black lawyer and I've never seen a Black lawyer. It's hard to say I'm going to be a business owner or engineer and you've never seen
no blueprint.
No examples.
Blueprint. Man.
No examples. I think it's so hard. And so
it's scary too.
That's what it is. And that's what I think, that experience really showed me. Like I want to do more stuff like that. Like I want to really, really, really get into just like, and they refer to me as a motivational speaker, but I don't think I'm a motivational speaker at all. I think I
add it to the resume. You better put this out there.
I ain't gonna say I won't do that. I ain't saying I won't do that, but I'm saying I think that it's more so my own story is my story, and if it does something for you, I'm so happy. And if it doesn't, I really don't care. So it's my story, and then I'll tell it, and I hope that it falls on somebody's ears who maybe it'll motivate them to do something positive or do something different or change their life, whatever may come from you just listening to me tell you what I've been through and how I got where I am.
Man, and I feel like I really hope, like, specifically Black people break out of the torment of imposter syndrome, because when you
God, what is that about? I'm glad we brought that up. What are we doing?
When you talked about going to speak to your high school and you feeling of inadequacy, it's like you shouldn't be doing it. And even on the bar, the self-talk is so important. When you said your mind just went blank, for me on the bar too, I had to talk to encourage yourself. Talk about encourage yourself. I'm like, Akeem, you are a beast.
And if you were beside me, I would have tapped. I would have been like, he gotta go. He got to go. He distracted me. Okay. Because you was about to have to get out of here. He was about to escort you out.
Loud. He didn't scream. Nah, but it's the self-talk and the encouragement I get from your community and from you and from God. Like, you need to be constantly encouraged to know that you are in the right place. You have been killing it. You are doing what you're supposed to do. Like, you're not inadequate. And specifically in the legal field, I feel like the interviews I've been doing, the different people I've been talking to, I feel like most of us do struggle with the imposter syndrome. Like, am I supposed to be here? And it's time for us to break out of that and do what we're supposed to do.
So I do want to just clarify like a small point. Now, the feeling that came kind of like about when I was about to or they asked me to speak to my high school back home, I felt like I hadn't reached my peak yet. Like I feel like I'm still climbing. So I'm like, I want to talk to them when I have done this or when I've done that, when I've done this. And then that's what I felt like, you know what, no, what I have done so far is more than enough to where I can show them that you can do the same, you can do even more. You can do even better than me. Now, in the workplace, I've never feel inadequate. I don't feel inadequate. I don't feel that way. And I don't feel that way because it could be just my own personal experiences. But what I do know is that I'm here for a reason. I know that I'm good enough. I know that I can do just as good of job on a case, a motion, an argument as anybody else. And I have to, because my clients are dependent on me. If I feel like, what am I doing here? Who am I to be this person's lawyer? Who am I to do this? What type of representation am I providing for a client who literally their life is on the line? No, you gotta go in there. You gotta feel like how Lil Wayne says he the best rapper alive. You gotta feel like, no, I'm the best attorney in this courtroom.
Facts.
I'm better than the judge.
Facts.
I'm the best attorney in this courtroom, and I think that our clients deserve you to feel and carry yourself that way. Because you are representing them. Who wants a lawyer that thinks, and I'm talking about specific to the work I do.
Yeah.
Who wants a representation who doesn't believe they can do it, or who's like,
that they're the best. Yeah.
maybe they're better than me, or I can't really do this. And just think about how you would feel if you were reverse roles and you're that client and they're your attorney, and that person is like, I can't really speak up, or I don't want to say this. It might no, you would be devastated. You would say, get the hell out of here. You would be
it's like if a pilot was like, I don't know if I can fly this plane for real. I don't know if I can do this for real. I'm not too confident I'm gonna land this thing. You gonna run off that plane?
Look, sir.
Let me up.
You know what? Don't even close the gate. Let me out. You can keep the luggage, cause I got to go. You can keep the luggage, cause no. And so I think that's what keeps me kind of like in this very, very kind of comfortable space at work, because I know like that's what my clients deserve. So yeah.
So did you just say that you're the Lil Wayne of lawyering? Is that what you just admitted?
Well, take it how you want to. I didn't say that, but take it how you want to. Okay, I'm gonna let you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yo, I'm about to hit you with a real random question. Speaking of Lil Wayne, give me a top 5 rappers of all time. Quick.
My top 5 rappers of all time. Okay,
go.
I'm gonna give you Lil Wayne.
I'm
gonna give you.
And this isn't order. It's from 5.
No. Because I don't want to stress myself out by order. All right, so I'm gonna give you Lil Wayne. I'm gonna give you Lil Baby.
Of all time. Wow. Okay.
You're not gonna get Jay-Z's and out of that out of me. I'm gonna give you DMX.
Woo.
I'm gonna give you. And you know what? I like him, but I feel like the caliber of his music when he was released from prison it declined. But when I was young, I couldn't get enough of Gucci Mane.
I was say Gucci or Boosie.
I couldn't get enough of Gucci Mane. I love Boosie. I couldn't get enough of Gucci Mane. But and my number 5 in no order is Jeezy.
Woo! And his last album was crazy.
Yeah,
Jeezy's last album was amazing.
Yeah.
What rapper got you through law school? What would you say?
Oh, Lord, definitely Kodak and Boosie for sure. So Kodak and Boosie were my favorites, and then I always go back to the old Chief Keef. I always go back to the old Chief Keef.
That was right
the
before
short
exams.
Dress Chief Keef. Yeah. I go
That's
back
when you
to
study,
him.
You about to start the exam. You gotta get the.
You gotta get yourself together. Yeah. I go back to him a lot.
Man, got you.
Yeah.
So one last question before the final question. Jumping back into the practice, you wrote for the Harvard Law Journal.
Yeah.
A plea to federal judges combating prosecutorial misconduct in this Cliven Bundy era. How we're gonna get? I want you to break that down a little bit. But as a defense attorney, what is your relationship with prosecutors? How do you view prosecutors?
So this is a kind of controversial topic.
It really is.
But what I will say is that I personally could never stand up and, confidently and just proudly advocate, which is what they're doing, for the incarceration of Black and brown people, especially poor Black and brown people from over-policed communities, from overlooked communities, from just like generations of trauma, when the systemic impetus for these people to even be standing before us in a courtroom, and yet you ignore it and you ask for this person. You ask to continue to traumatize them.
Yeah.
You ask to continue to essentially deteriorate the Black family. Put them in jail. I can never do that. Now, I do think that in my practice, I definitely start at a place of just like mutual respect, whether or not I respect their decision to do what they're doing. I start from a place of mutual respect in all regards. And I think that just could be just, I think it's professional, but also just the Southern in me. I'm very respectful. But when it comes to blatant disrespect of like my clients and who they are as human beings, whether it's the way they refer to them in court, the things that they say to describe them, just those are things that I won't stand for, and those are things that I speak up for. I speak up about and for my clients.
Yeah.
Whether it's in front of my clients or whether my clients never know that I had to get on somebody, a prosecutor, about the way in which they were referring to a client or the way in which they were essentially disrespecting a client or a community or a community of people. So I think that unfortunately it's a part of the job. This is a part of the judicial system. We have prosecutors and we have defense attorneys. It's very adversarial. And what I will say is that I think there's a difference between being, like professionally adversarial and just straight up like hating.
Right. Just for the sake of it.
Yeah. And I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Yeah. Somewhere in the middle.
You got a little bit of both.
Yeah. A little bit of both. And I think
that is so
that
good.
For someone to do what we do when we're representing people who are accused of crimes and to be passionate about it and to care about our clients, for you to not harbor any type of resentment or any type of ill feelings towards the person who every day is trying whatever they can do to keep your client in a cage, in a cell, or, away from their families with no regard for that. I think that, it's just not genuine. I get offended. I take it personal. And I know that, we sometimes have prosecutors who, it's about society, or it's about, in some specific cases, like the victims. But what I don't see is a lot of victim advocacy a lot of the times from the other side. I don't see a lot of input from the victims or whatever the institution, whether it's a business or an individual person that was harmed. I don't see a lot of what feels like that person is even driving a prosecutor's decision. Yeah, it's like maybe that's what they're saying, but in reality, it just doesn't feel that way.
So how do you feel about the Meg and the Tory case? It seems like Meg's story was driving that prosecution.
Yeah. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, when we're talking about a criminal trial, it's about the evidence, and it's about what those 12 jurors believe to be true and what they don't believe to be true. I feel like I saw just as much or little as everybody else. I was following a few feeds like on Twitter, so I would kind of get updates here and there. I don't see how the defense thought they had a winning theory at all. I couldn't even really pinpoint what the exact theory was.
Facts.
So
that boy did it, man.
It just kind of felt like, well, what are we doing here?
What
like, what are we doing here?
After the case, when everything came out, I was like,
it was
kind of even close.
It was kind of like, what are we doing here? I think that that's a completely, I think, a different. I think that's I feel for Meg Thee Stallion being shot or injured in whatever way she was. And I'm so glad that it wasn't worse than that, because when it's a gun involved,
Facts.
Lord. Yeah. You could be killed.
Anywhere.
So thank God it wasn't worse than that. But I think that when we're talking about a criminal trial, it's about the evidence, and it's about what those 12 jurors, a group of your peers, believe to be true. And from what I saw, the jury was pretty diverse. They had some black men, some black women. I think there may have been like a few white people on there. I think it was a diverse group. And I for me, of course we don't know what the backgrounds of each of those jurors were, but what we do know is that it was a decision that it was unanimous, that they felt like he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and you can only respect that.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you feel, going back to your point of prosecutors, do you feel like any point of the system can change, or do you feel like what changes can be made for you to feel differently about prosecutors? That's how I want to ask it.
I think that what could be changed, I think that, I understand, because, we have some people who are like abolitionists. I'm not there. But I think that, when we're talking about, when I mentioned like the impetus, like what caused someone to even be involved in the criminal justice system. I sometimes get clients who this is the first time they've ever been arrested. First time they've ever had any interaction with the court system. That's a rarity. Most of my clients have several prior instances or several prior run-ins with the criminal justice system, whether it's here or in another state, another jurisdiction. And I go back and I look like, okay, the first time this person was ever handcuffed, they were 12 years old.
Man.
10 years old. What was it? What is happening? Who failed on this child who is now a 30-year-old grown man or, older or, a little bit younger? What happened? And why is nobody doing anything about it? Instead, we are essentially punishing them for being, I'll say products of the environment that it seems like they've been a part of since they were 9, 10, probably since birth. So I think that what could make a difference to me for prosecutors is to actually empathize with people who, are involved in the criminal justice system and to not see them as the worst thing that they've been accused of doing. But instead to figure out what are the resources and the services that can be put in place to prevent recidivism. And prison doesn't prevent recidivism. Incarceration doesn't prevent recidivism because they talk about it all the time. It's not even really a deterrent because what you're really doing is taking somebody away from education, family, support. You're taking them away from everything, putting them into one of the most volatile environments you can think of. I just told you a little bit about what's going on in prisons. The most volatile environment you could possibly put someone, and they're being treated like an animal for X amount of years. And then you want them to come back and act
and
like
be part of society.
No.
Can't get a job. Can't get a job.
It's worse.
Yep.
It's worse. So I want prosecutors to take that into consideration when they stand up in court every day and just ask for people to go to prison, go to prison, go to prison, go to prison.
Right. And then go home.
Yeah.
Man, that's real. So real quick, break down your article about combating prosecutorial misconduct.
So my article came from first, so I will just say, when I wrote on for journal, right, and for people who are not familiar with that, you have a certain GPA or whatever, and the journal, you're invited to apply or to write on to be a part of the journal, right? And so you basically, it's like a written competition to become a part of this group where we're going to produce what every law school, almost every law school, I think, has, which is a publication from the school. So this is the Howard Law Journal. Georgetown, every law school has this publication that they put out either quarterly, yearly, where it has legal articles or essays on different topics in the law. And we do those because we want to add to the conversation about a specific topic. And so I wanted to add to the conversation about, at first, just the discretion that prosecutors have or that, prosecutors' offices have when it comes to the decision on what to charge someone, whether to dismiss a case, whether to proceed with charges or not proceed. And I wanted to add to that conversation because I felt like they have too much discretion. And so what I knew from college was that one of the clients my Black Panther Party professor represented, one of the reasons he was able to be wrongfully convicted was because the prosecutors withheld evidence that would have shown that he was innocent.
Man.
They withheld it. They didn't give it up.
And they're supposed to. They're legally.
They're supposed to do that. Exactly. Yeah. And so because they did not do that, this is a man that spent over 30 years in jail for a crime he didn't commit. And so I started to research, what can we do to stop them? Somebody needs to do something. And I started thinking, what the hell are the judges doing? That's why the beginning is a plea to federal judges. What the hell are the judges doing? And so, again, just one of the benefits of being here in DC in such a kind of like progressive city, I was able to learn about this judge who was very, very adamant about prosecutors abiding by their duty to disclose any material that could make someone, more or less likely inculpatory, right? So more or less likely to be innocent or guilty or whatever, right? And so he didn't play about it. He's like, no, you're going to turn over all of this stuff you have. If you have any information that would show that this person didn't commit this crime, then you're going to turn it over. And if you don't, you're going to face consequences. And when I realized that that's not the commonplace in every courtroom, I'm like, so we're just depending on what these people say. Like we're just
Going off
they say it didn't happen, we're just going along with it, and there's no repercussions for it if we find out later that that's not true. So Cliven Bundy owned, like this livestock or whatever,
right,
and on a ranch, and he wasn't supposed to have the livestock or something, and the Homeland Security, the Department of Agriculture came and tried to confiscate his cattle. Cliven Bundy wasn't going for it. he developed a militia against the government to protect his cattle. And in federal court, they found that the prosecutors didn't turn over some, evidence or something. And the judge says, we're dismissing this case. This case has been dismissed with prejudice. I said, okay, they dismissed the case about cattle. But we're not doing that for human beings who are in jail.
Yeah.
I said, no. So I titled it the Cliven Bundy era because I said, okay, we know that judges can do it because they did it in this case. We know that they can say, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, we're dismissing this case and we're not going to allow you to abuse your discretion. So that means it can be done. Right. So let's follow this judge's lead.
And this wasn't overturned. It wasn't.
No, Cliven Bundy's living I don't know where he is today, but at that time, when I wrote the article, he was living his best life, and he probably still had his cattle. So I just, the difference in just a man who, was essentially just trying to protect his livestock or whatever, was able to go home. He and his sons go home, walk free, all because a prosecutor didn't do something they were supposed to do. But when we're talking about men, women, wives, husbands, sons, daughters, they're sitting in jail cells and prosecutors are doing the same thing with no repercussion. So I said, you know what? Federal judges, can you please step up to the plate and hold the fire to these prosecutors who you instill in so much trust and so much discretion? We need to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. And if they're not, I think they need to go to jail.
For real. And it'll take so much resources to go back over these old prosecutors' cases to figure out what else they would hook. I'm sure that they've won cases based off of doing that a lot.
Right.
Man, that's a very important time. That's dope. All right. Encourage everybody to go read it. A plea to federal judges combating prosecutorial misconduct in the Cliven Bundy era. That's an awesome piece. So the way we end up the Conversate podcast, I ain't saying you this question because I want you to be on your feet. We close it out with a closing argument. It is an off the dome closing argument. And
you ain't tell me that. Did you put that in the thing?
I did it.
Okay.
And it's an encouragement. It's an off the dome encouragement to leave with. I always say this podcast is for law students and baby lawyers. Whatever you want to leave it, the audience, but in a closing argument form. Okay. And one caveat is you have to use the word of the day. You have to include it in your closing argument. And I know you did a whole bunch of mock trials and a whole bunch of real trials. Okay. So I know you're ready for this. So the word of the day is dubious. Dubious.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready, leave the audience with a closing argument. Drop some knowledge, some gems.
Okay. Dubious. Let me make sure I got the right definition here.
No, you can't.
You can't do that. You can't do that. Oh, okay.
You gotta use it the best way you can. Got you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be dubious.
Sound out strong.
Do what you want. Do follow your passions. Do stand up for yourself. Do make a difference in your life and the people's lives around you. Do not let what anybody else says about you or what anybody else thinks about you stop you from changing or doing whatever it is you want to do in your life. I always say, and I want you to remember, if they can do it, so can I. What makes me better than you? Nothing. You can do it. So don't be dubious. Do what you want to do.
Don't be dubious. Come on.
Don't
I thought you were about to drop a bar. I thought you
dubious.
were about to start rapping.
Don't be
Dubious means hesitating or doubting.
Yeah, don't be
not to be
that.
relied on. Yeah, don't
Okay.
be dubious. Don't doubt yourself. Don't hesitate. Use it right. Use it right. That was
Okay.
dope. Do what you want to do, right?
Yeah,
Do what
because
you
you
want to
can.
do.
Right.
Man,
And
that's amazing.
I always say, if they can do it, so can I. What makes that person better than you?
Right.
Nothing.
And Quiana just showed you she's out here doing it. So can you.
Yes.
Out here as a defense attorney. So thank you so much, Quiana, for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate it.
Of course,
I really do.
Now, I'm so proud of you for everything you're doing. Again, it's so dope seeing you and other people from the program we did it with just out here.
Oh,
doing their
yes.
thing.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
So I'm excited that we had the chance to catch up and dive deep, man. This is dope. This is fun. So thank you again for coming on the podcast.